In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 things that make women lose respect and lose attraction for the man they may be dating. Now, you can also rearrange these words to be feminine, masculine for men and women, because it could be like that in whatever type of relationship there is. Now, here is the key, and here is the number one thing that kills all attraction across the board in any relationship, no matter the dynamic. The number one thing, and the first thing I'm going to share with you, is that of neediness. Needy energy repels. Needy energy causes people to lose respect. Needy energy is literally the opposite of magnetic energy. Now, needy energy is something that sometimes when you're dating someone, you may start to emit once you start to feel uncertain with whether they still like you or not. If you start feeling uncertain in your future with this person, you may start to have more needy type behaviors. And the most important thing to understand about this is that the energy you feel about you is being projected out, and other people can feel that. When there's an energy of neediness, normally what is happening is there is a dependence on something outside of your own energy field that you are trying to manipulate or control to meet your own needs. Now, this is why when you see people that have that needy energy, it is like they want something from you. They want your validation, they want your approval, and what they believe is they believe that if they are needy, if they put out that energy, they will actually get what they want. Now, it seems logical, right? The needy energy doesn't really work, but in the mind, the way that it is there's a feeling inside that says, I don't feel good enough. I want this person's validation or approval. And if I act this way, then I'm going to get my needs met. I'm going to get what I want, their validation, their approval, them to stick around. Something that sometimes people do if they start feeling like somebody's pulling back is they may actually say, hey, you're pulling back and this is something that you're pulling back. Why are you doing this? Why are you going to go hang out with your friends? Why are you going to go doing this? And there is something to be said, though, about vulnerability, because I believe when you can be vulnerable and actually express something that you're maybe afraid of hiding, because a lot of times people feel needy and they're very afraid of showing any level of neediness, even though they might feel it. And the cure to neediness many times is vulnerability. It's actually expressing the real you. It's expressing how you really feel, how you really think. I remember a lot in one of my prior relationships, I was kind of dancing around that feeling of neediness, and I was, in a way, in this pattern where I was choosing people that emotionally and were not choosing me. And what I was doing is I was making it okay that I was in relationships with people that weren't choosing me because I felt like that's what I deserved. But it was really also avoiding me asking people to kind of like choose, if that makes sense. I literally, eventually, once I started facing this neediness and I started realizing where it was coming from, I started to actually express my real heart. I actually started to say, you know what, actually, this is what I want. And if this isn't going to be the energy that is met, then I'm going to go do this instead. And I had to actually have the courage to do that. So sometimes what I want to say is if there's that needy energy there, realize that you might be settling in a way as well for people that maybe aren't choosing you because deep down you're not choosing yourself. You don't believe that you're worthy of somebody that chooses you. It may feel familiar to choose someone that's not choosing you. So then needy energy is activated. Also, a lot of times this will also be indicative of a anxious or avoidant attachment style. So it's normally the anxious that's the one that's feeling needy. And it's because there's the deep down issue or the core issue of the childhood wounding is the inner child wound of abandonment. There's a belief that says people don't stay, I'm not worthy, people are going to leave me. And in order to mitigate that, people try to be needy, they try to get their own needs met. And in a way, they're putting these unrealistic demands on outer reality. They want the person they're dating to meet their own inner childhood needs that weren't met when they were kids. But the abandonment wound comes because a lot of times what we've done is we've abandoned ourselves, and we've then tried to make everybody else happy. And part of making everybody else happy means that we need our needs met on the outside, and then we demand other people make it, and then we'll manipulate other people and be kind of passive aggressive and shit in order to get our needs met. The cure is to stop abandoning yourself and to start being vulnerable. Start expressing the real you. What do you really want? What do you really desire? And neediness is also about the energy behind the action. If you're living in integrity with who you really are, and you don't need anything from anybody else because you know who you are and you're being present in the moment, it's a very different energy than really needing and wanting someone else's validation or approval. Because that's really what it is deep down. It's the abandonment wound, it's the need for validation, the need for approval. And knowing that actually you can activate that energy within yourself and you can express the real you, knowing that maybe some people don't resonate with it, but that's okay. That's a part of the process of dating. That's a part of the process of learning about who you really are and really your own power. Now, the second thing that will make a woman lose respect for you or lose attraction for you is having a lack of polarity. Now, lack of polarity is very important when it comes to sexual attraction and attraction in general. Now, just to generally clarify this, the masculine energy is all about directionality. It's directional. It's going in a specific direction. It is focused on purpose. It is focused on living up to the true potential. It is focused a lot of times on outcome, on going somewhere. And that allows a lot of times the feminine to feel safe. What happens though sometimes is when the masculine is not directional, is not going towards their purpose, what sometimes happens is then they stop activating that polarity within themselves. And a lot of times what will happen too sometimes is the masculine will then make the feminine their shining star. And they'll make their relationship the most important thing in their life, which is honestly a big mistake, because then the feminine can't feel safe. And some women might be listening to this right now, or feminine people might be listening to this right now. No, I want the masculine to be, to put me as a priority to their purpose. You might think you want that, but I promise you, if you get it, there's going to be a lack of polarity there. You're not going to really be able to go into your true feminine energy, because you're not going to really be able to feel safe, because the way masculine energy is meant to be is directional, it's focused on purpose, and that is like the soul, the number one priority. Because then once that happens, then their relationships fall into place, then there's sexual polarity there, then there's safety, and they're able to provide in that kind of way for the feminine. Now the feminine energy is all about emotion. It is all about flow. It is all about feeling and nurturing and giving life. The feminine is all about life and feeling. And the difference between these two energies, when a lot of times the woman has lost respect for the man or lost attraction to the man, is because the man or the masculine is not focused on their purpose. They are not focused on directionality. They may have made this the relationship the sole focus in their life, and that has depolarized the relationship, and therefore that loss of attraction is there. So one of the most powerful things you can do, whether you're on either side of the spectrum, so whether you are listening to this right now because you just want to understand more about feminine, masculine energy, I understand there might be some feminine or women that are watching this, is to go into the core of yourself, of your own polarity. And sometimes what also happens is the feminine will believe they won't feel safe with the masculine, so then they'll create all the masculine energy within themselves. They'll create a real successful business. And if they do that too much without getting back into their own feminine flow, then they'll activate a lot of masculine energy and they'll find themselves attracted to feminine men. Something else I found interesting is there's a research that has been done on women on birth control. And women on birth control, sometimes what they'll do is while they're on birth control, they'll get in a relationship with somebody, and then they may even get married. But then after they get married, if they get off of birth control sometimes, they'll realize they're not really even attracted to their partner. People that are on birth control, women that are on birth control, a lot of times it changes their hormones to a place to where then they'll actually choose less masculine men or less masculine energy because their hormones have been shifted. So one thing that's very interesting about this is that there are different things happening inside the body that are affecting how we think, how we feel, how we're showing up in the world. And one thing to learn from this whole thing that I'm sharing right now is that if you want to attract a masculine man or a feminine female or whatever gender it is, but masculine or feminine energy, then I would encourage you to embody the energy of the polarity that is, if you want to attract the masculine, then it's to really embody the feminine energy, which means to get more into your flow, which means to be more focusing on your giving life and nurturing and having that kind of feminine energy. If you're masculine, which you most likely are if you're watching this video, or that's what you want to get back to as your core, then I'd focus on being directional, focusing on your purpose, focusing on that directionality of also living by your own integrity. These are things that will affect how you're showing up in the world and what you end up attracting. When I was not in my own masculine frame, I would not attract women that were in their feminine frame because I wasn't in my masculine frame. So there's like these dynamics where you can either be in your masculine energy, your feminine energy. Some people are in neutral energy. And a lot of times when you're in neutral energy, you're going to attract other partners that are also neutral. And there really is no good or bad with all of this. There are some relationships out there where the woman is more masculine and the man is more feminine. And it works fine for them. For me, I prefer to be in my masculine. My girlfriend prefers to be in her feminine. And it just depends on what there really is no right or wrong. But you have to be honest with what is natural for you, because sometimes we have childhood trauma that happened where we said it's not safe for me to be in my masculine or it's not safe for me to be in my feminine, and we may have reverted. But when you start to get to your own core, you realize that you can completely shift the energy by allowing yourself to sink into the natural energy of what is really natural for you, not that what was created out of trauma of trying to avoid those feelings. Now, the last thing that will repel love and have the feminine lose respect, lose attraction for you, very often happens when the man is, their masculine is starting to feel not safe in the relationship. What they might do is they may try to control. They may try to control, withhold their love. Things may become very conditional. The control is something that is trying to manipulate someone else's energy to be the way that you want them to be instead of fully accepting them and letting them figure out things on their own, you know? So it's an interesting dynamic that happens, but in many cases it is actually repelling, especially if you're like, I need to know where you are, I need to know what you're doing, I need to know who you're talking to. That stuff is jealous, it's controlling, and it repels energy. So all three of these things, neediness, lack of polarity, and controlling energy will all repel and literally have the feminine or the other energy not respect. And for many of these things, it also works in the reverse. So it's stuff that the masculine, the feminine does will also repel the masculine. So you can look at it from that way as well. Now, I do have a meditation. I have 3 meditations: an inner child meditation, attract love meditation, and a meditation on transforming your own self-image. They're the 3 most powerful meditations I have that will help you to create a complete identity shift so that you could be this non-attached magnetic version of you. If you want those 3 meditations, they're my most powerful meditations I've ever created. You can go to the description box below or go to aarondowdy.com/meditation. And then also, if you want a video that's going to show you how to really work with this energy if they leave, exactly what you should be doing to create that magnetic energy from the inside out and how you should detach, watch this video right here. They may not come back if the energy remains the same. However, if the energy changes, if the energy comes back to self, you'll notice that the energy becomes much more magnetic and literally people respond.